Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today. I do truly appreciate it. And I'm back, undisclosed location, this time at a Hampton Inn. See the artwork? Much classier than a fellow like me might have. I don't know, a very plain, bland room. But I just finished the book and I feel like I need to talk about it now rather than later. So here we go. I'm working, so I'm on the road, and I finished a book called The Great Alone by Kristin and I really love the cover of this book. It's just a soft cover version from St. Martin's Griffin, and it's been well read. At least 2 other people have read it. My wife gave it to me, and I think it was given to her. But Kristin is an author that my wife vouches for. If this lady's name is on a book, she's gonna read it, and she'll flat out admit as much. And as an author that I never heard of until my wife talked about her. And then she described the stories that Kristin wrote, and I would say something like this: I don't have the psychological power to be able to handle stories that heavy. I just don't. I know myself. I know my psyche. I need a little bit lighter fare for what these books sounded like. And so I never even considered reading any of these books until one day I was reading a book by an author named Philip Fracassi. It was called The Third Rule of Time Travel, which is coming out very soon. I was reading an advanced review copy of it, and I really liked the book, and I was telling my wife, I think you'll like this one too. And so I guess she agreed to read it, and I felt like I needed to make some sort of a concession. We typically don't read the same kinds of books, so I agreed to read this other book that she said she thought I would like. And in the meantime, I had mentioned something to Philip Fracassi about my wife agreeing to read The Third Rule of Time Travel, and that she's trying to get me to read a book by Kristin. Philip Fracassi said, wow, this Kristin is amazing. You should read this one and this one and this one and this one. And it got me thinking. One of the books my wife told me about had something to do with Alaska and people having to survive in Alaska. And I've been there a couple times, of course, as a tourist, spending a few weeks in an RV in August and early September is a whole lot different than the survival in Alaska throughout the year. But I've been to the place. Like many, I was enchanted. Many, I want to go back again and again, although I haven't fooled myself into thinking a Florida boy is going to be able to spend 1 iota of a second in wintertime in Alaska, any 40 below, 20 below, 10 below, none of that stuff. Kansas City was too cold for me. I don't think I could even dream of handling an Alaska winter. But the story sounded good. It sounded heavy. It sounded depressing, and I didn't feel like I was up for that. And in many ways, I was right. This story is heavy. This story is depressing. And when you think it's heavy and depressing, Kristin just pours the coals to it. And when you think, I don't think I can deal with this, she pours the coals to it more. And then you get hope. And then she, boom, pulls the rug out from under me, the reader, over and over again. And what's weird is that a lot of people love her work and a lot of people love this book. Probably one of the, if not the, one of the highest rated books on Goodreads that I've ever read. Judged by not 100 or 1,000, but million. A lot of people said this book is fabulous, terrific. It's terrific. And there's some things about this book. I'll tell you what I thought. I'm going to give you a rating when it's all said and done, because this book has me twisted up. It has me twisted up. Her storytelling, I'll get into the plot in just a second, but her storytelling, the description is amazing. There are parts of this book that I just want it to keep going, just like that. Describing surviving in Alaska, living in a cabin, finding food, all the different things that they're going through. The fishing, the building, everything that they're going through, tanning, working as a community, stuff like that. I loved it. And some of the hope spots that we would get, that maybe things are finally going to start turning around. Just amazing. The way she tells a story, she's so good at that. On the flip side, I said that you feel like it's really, really bad, and she just pours the coals to it. If I'm gonna knock the book, I think it's just too much bad on bad on bad on bad on bad. And I feel like when you're telling a story, there's something that they call a hat on a hat. In other words, you do something once, it might be great, then you do it again and again, or you do something else just like it. Again, it's no longer any good, so I wear a hat, works good, keeps the sun out of my face, keeps my glasses from getting wet in the rain, whatever, it looks cool. Why not 2? Why not 3? Eventually, it doesn't work. But I feel like there was some piling on here that really didn't need to be done. But I'm judging an author that has proven herself. So I read through. And as I read this book, there haven't been many, if there have been any, page turners like this, where I gotta get back in. I gotta see what the next page has, the next chapter has. Several times in this book, I'm left saying, holy cow. And I'm thinking the worm has turned. And that's where things would just go bad again. So it was a very tough book for me. And many times throughout the book, I thought, I'm going to have to just bag this book and say I didn't like it. When so many people loved it. And then I read on. Because I had to see what happened. I had to get the story. I had to get more of these characters, more of the story, more of the place, the setting, more of the trials and tribulations. But I had to see the end. I had to see it come out the other side. And for a long time, I felt like it ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna work. And I'm not gonna spoil the book. But when it was done, when I finished it and I closed the book, I pulled out Goodreads and I said I finished the book, and my finger just said 5 stars. Boom, 5 stars. How? How could a book that I've spent, 550, something like that, pages, the majority of this book, I'm saying I love it, but this is good, but, and then at the end, bam, 5 stars. And I can't make my finger not hit that 5-star button there on the Goodreads view. And that's what I'm going to rate it, as 5 stars. And this is a book that deals with a lot of stuff, but stuff that if I'm going to have trouble with anything, this is what it's going to be: family. Family is very important to me, but also family is a wonderful thing, and it can be a very difficult, painful thing. From experience, from imagination and psychology and all that kind of stuff. Basic plot summary. You can read the back of the book or you can look it up online. But there's a guy named Ernst Albright, and he is a Vietnam veteran, and he's joined up. He volunteered to go to Vietnam with a young wife and a young daughter. And before he left, it was described that he was an amazing husband, an amazing father, a happy person, a loving person. And he went to Vietnam, and he came home, I think, something like 6 years later. Captured prisoner of war, unspeakable horrors. And he came back and he was changed like so many. I mean, it's a very familiar story. 1974 was where the book started. I think it was 1974. But his wife, Cora, and his daughter, Lenny, who at the beginning of the book was 13, the book ages her. I mean, it's a long story, covers a long stretch of her life. She's early to mid-20s. I think she's mid-20s by the end of the book. Maybe more. Probably mid-20s, I think. Anyway, he comes back, and now he's suffering with tremendous depression. He still loves his wife. He still loves his daughter, and they love him. But tremendous depression. He'll be up and down, up and down. He has skills. He can't keep a job. He'll go get a job. He'll do well on it, and then he'll get fired. He has trouble with alcoholism. So a lot of this stuff is very familiar. And that's one of the things with this book that I felt like too many times it was the stereotype. Too many times it was a familiar trope stuffed in there. And that, so for me, I noticed it. I noticed it a lot when this character would do that and this character would do this. It's like, isn't that such a stereotypical thing for him to have done to them or what have you? So some of the things I had, troubles that I had with it. But when this book was over, all that stuff, I just got over it. And I said, this was a 5-star book. Anyway, he comes home one day and he says, I got a plan, a scheme. And they kind of act like another harebrained scheme. He does this every time. This thing falls through, so he comes up with this new idea. But his idea was, when he was in Vietnam, one of his teammates, one of his friends, one of his compatriots there died in the war. But he left him his little place in a town called Kenok in Alaska. It doesn't exist. I looked it up. It doesn't exist. But they mentioned other places like Seldovia, like Homer, and those are places that I have heard of. So it's kind of in that area, the Homer Spit, they get on a little ferry and go over here to this Kenok, this place. And it's a very small community, very few people there, no electricity. People work together, they help each other get food for the winter, fix things, repair things. They work together in many, many ways as a true community. And so the Albrights moved there. And they're welcomed in with open arms. But Ernst has his issues, and he is a very divisive guy, and he kind of splits the town apart. Where we start seeing that not only is he very depressed, is he very erratic, but he's also very abusive. We don't get that right up front, but we get it. At some point, he's abusive, and he's beating his wife, Cora, regularly when things go wrong. And then, of course, the stereotypical response when the dust is settled and the smoke's cleared, he is so sorry and sad about what he's done, and she loves him so much she forgives him, and they go on. They do this over and over and over again until finally it all comes to a head. And I don't want to spoil anything for you because it's a journey, but there's other characters in this town, and Large Marge is one. You'll get to know her right away as soon as they get there. Probably my favorite character in this whole book. A wonderful lady, a wonderfully written character, and I feel like the kind of character that most of us can think of somebody in our lives that probably reminds us of Large Marge, a lady with a past that now chooses to live here, and she's got it all under control. Everything is old hat to her. She's tough as nails. She knows what's going on. So I really love Large Marge, a great character in this book. And then there's others. There's others in here that maybe aren't so good. I think pretty much every other character has some sort of flaws that bothers me. But of course, Lenny, the daughter, she would be the one that always sticks by her mom, no matter how bad it is for her, no matter how bad the choices that her mom makes. And I'm not blaming the victim, but her mom makes in this book so many choices. So many times she chooses her husband over her daughter. It's something that bothers me. As a parent, I'm a parent. But Lenny always seems to be trying to do what's right. And as a young girl, I mean, it's hard. And so you can forgive her for not doing things the right way every time. But she meets a boy in there, in her new town, Matthew Walker. And he's a flawed boy also. But they get along, they hit it off really well. They become great friends at a young age. And then later on as they age, of course, you would think more would come of it. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But Matthew's dad, Tom Walker, ends up being the arch nemesis of Lenny's dad, Ernst Albright. The nemesis. He's the guy comes from money. His ancestors founded this place. He's a successful businessman, and Ernst can't do anything financially right. And he's come to this place where you don't have to. All you have to do is feed yourself and house yourself and put a roof over your head. You don't have to satisfy bosses or employers anymore. Meanwhile, Tom Walker is kind of a reminder of city life, of normal life, where money talks and success breeds success and stuff like that. But Tom Walker really is overall written as a good guy. he does some things in there that kind of makes things worse. And sometimes he could have helped when he didn't, and he should have helped when he didn't and such. But he's overall a good guy. And Matthew and Lenny have a relationship, and Lenny's dad, Ernst, can't stand it. He won't allow it because he hates Tom Walker so bad. But anyway, that's enough about the plot. It's a heavy read. Perhaps the heaviest I've ever read. I usually protect myself. If something seems too heavy, I do not read it. Just don't. But this one is probably the heaviest book I've ever read. And at the end of the day, when I closed the page, I don't want to say I loved it, but I couldn't do anything but say this book was a 5 stars out of 5 stars. Fabulous read. A fabulous book. Tough book, but a fabulous book. She is such a great writer in terms of making you feel things. Feel what a place is like. Feel what the weather is like. Feel what love is like. Feel what pain is like, and sadness and confusion, depression. You feel it. So that's a skill she's got right there. I will tell you this. I don't think I'll read another Kristin Hannah book. I'll tell you she's a great writer. I'll tell you this is a great book. I don't think I'll read another one though. I don't know. That's not because I'm saying it's bad or that you shouldn't. I don't know if I'm up for another one like that. Maybe I'll give it a little while and I'll go back and give it a shot down the road somewhere. But I need some lighter fare now. And I'm reading a book that's much lighter fare. I think that's what I need. But anyway, this is a great book, and it is one heck of a ride, emotional ride. She's a great storyteller, and if you're up for some heavy stuff, some depressing stuff, and a great writer and a great read, I recommend this book. Go look it up on Goodreads. See how many people say this is a great book. Like a 4.4 out of 5 or something like that, 4.5 out of 5, just highly rated and well deserved. And I got to go tell my wife now that this was a great book and that she was right. And with that being said, I can think of no more lies to tell. Thank you for your time. I do truly appreciate it. And say la vie, baby. Do.
And that's terrific. And today I'm gonna be doing a YouTube video book unboxing. Oh no.